welcome to the In My Opinion show with Ronald Barry Robinson and friends. We have a spectacular panel with us this evening. We have Miss Osha Weaver.
Hello, Ron.
Hi. We have Miss Tracy Blackwell.
Hello, Ron.
And we have Mr. Henry Hatter.
Good evening, Ron.
Welcome all to the In My Opinion show. Let's talk about the automotive industry. Here we go again. When the hell left the gate open? Government again bails out more for-profit institutions. The automobile companies to the tune of $17.4 billion. I would not have given them shit either. GM is eligible for loans up to 13.4 billion and Chrysler 4 billion. And guess what? The auto worker is again asked to sacrifice. They want parity with the foreign auto workers. What most people don't know is the government gave these same foreign automakers that produce cars in America a $4 billion loan and other incentives to build cars in the United States. Is the government trying to bust the unions out of existence? Is a revolution at hand? In these loans, the government gets 20% of the value of the loans and warranties for company stock. Is socialism taking over? The question is, who is bailing out or even trying to help the millions of everyday workers that work hard and play by the rules, that have lost almost everything because of the car companies' mismanagement, greed, unfair foreign trade deals, policies, and outsourcing of jobs? The answer is nobody. And when you do ask for help and are suffering financially because of circumstances beyond your control as a direct result of incompetence, you get absolutely nothing. It's a revolution at hand. Mr. Hatter, what is your thoughts?
Well, Ron, I am very disappointed with the automobile industry in many, many ways, and I think it deserves some criticism that you've indicated. But by the same token, I do believe that it is businesses that build national capital. You've got to have your businesses. Without that, you would have no capital making desire or provision or methodology to create national wealth. The automobile industry has created the standards for wealth for many, many years. We've all benefited by it. In this particular case, I do believe that the automobile industry bears some guilt for what we find themselves in today. Back in the 60s, when we had the first introduction of the foreign automobile, which I believe was Toyota.
Was it the Renault?
No, it was a
It was the
Toyota.
Toyota.
Corvair?
Oh, no. It was,
Esso.
no, hang on.
Okay.
Let me make my point here. No. And I know that many people who work for General Motors probably may understand this and they may not, but hopefully they will pick up something that they can agree with here. But when those first automobiles began to arrive, General Motors had 57% of the American automobile marketplace. And and as they continued to pour these cars in, the market didn't expand at all,
Mm.
but we lost market share. But yet General Motors profits went up. Now why? Profits are built on the number of units you sell. If you like in your business, you sell so many books, you earn so much profit. But that's the way businesses in hardware or manufacturing earn their profits. And over the years, the profits continued to rise, the market share continued to decline. Now, what was going on? And institutions missed this, the press missed it. And what they were doing is selling off the assets.
Mm-hmm.
They first of all began to sell off, I believe, the first one was Frigidaire, if you recall. And then they sold off Central Foundry, they sold off Detroit Diesel, Detroit Ball Bearing, Central Foundries, Delco Remy, and more recently, in 2006, I believe they spun off AC or
Delphi.
Delphi. Now, in 2008, if you ran a model like the Japanese did, they could predict a year in which we would have the clashing of forces within the automobile industry. It had nothing else to sell, and so it collapsed. And they said quickly, you got to bail us out. But that was not all of the problems that happened. Let's look at the other side of what happened. You have Americans who work for the automobile industry. You have doctors and lawyers who buy foreign products, who should be buying the American made products. And those people help to create a demand for those foreign cars. We're in a free market, and Americans can make their choices. They're as guilty as are the GM people at the top, who got great bonuses and deceived the American people and they deceived the workforce. And so don't walk away thinking that you're absolved from guilt because we all have it. If you go anywhere outside of Michigan and you move around the country, you will find out that you don't see GM cars or Fords or Chrysler. You
Mhm.
see only foreign cars. And
Exactly.
yet people are insensitive to the bailout. And besides, General Motors is not asking for a bailout. What it's asking for is a bridge loan. There's a difference between a bridge loan and a bailout. The bailout, you do take government funds and you shore up some financial situation. But what they're asking for is a bridge loan. A bridge loan
Mm-hmm.
is generally money that's issued by the government with the intent that you would pay it back. But because of its risk, it's very much more expensive. So what General Motors is at and Ford and Chrysler are asking for is a bridge loan. Now, whether that's going to be enough money to bail them out, that's up to you to guess. But they have been this in this fix in the past, and more than likely they will recover from it. But we ought to hope that they do recover. It's one of the last vestiges of manufacturing that we have in this country. We need to save it um, because that is where the bulk of the wealth is made, and that will take and transfer gold from countries abroad back to the United States.
Mhm.
There's an imbalance right now because much of the stuff we purchase from other countries. We need to reestablish the balance there, and we need to do it through manufacturing, either the manufacturing of consumer goods or through services or through intelligence, artificial intelligence or entertainment. Those are products that we make that we still hold our own on. But we do need to save the automobile industry. Thank you.
Tracy,
Oh, by the way, let me just say this. I forgot something. Let's look at all the bailouts that we've had in the past and find out what happened. Back in the 70s, we had Penn Central went bust, and the United States did bail them out. Um, well, it was a bridge loan, and they paid that loan back with a dividend. And then there were other places like Lockheed Aircraft, and they paid theirs back. Okay, Franklin National Bank did. SNL was one of those who went debunked. They didn't pay theirs back. Chrysler paid its loans back. So in the airline industry, they didn't pay it all back, and they went bankrupt, of course. You
Mhm.
know that.
Mhm.
But there are many people who say, well, General Motors will fail because they all failed. But that's not true. The history well shows that they are capable of paying this back if they are positioned well. And I don't know whether we have enough money to quite do that. We may have to go back again to the coffers and ask for it.
Mhm.
Tracy, what is your thoughts?
Yeah, I do believe that they're gonna need significantly more than they received in the first payment. My question is similar to the financial bailout loans that we provided to the financial institutions. Um, if your business model is flawed, um, y- 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 we as regular business owners don't get any. We can't go to the government and ask for a loan while we try and figure out our flawed business model. Um, and I wonder if General Motors is going to be able to really look at itself, scrutinize itself and what it's doing, and be able to build its product up.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the way that it's going to be able to employ the new generation of employees, and then look at its administrative level, designers, the CEOs, the financial people who either make decisions to make profits or sell off assets, and decide how it can be a profitable business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the things I think about is the lobbyists and all the money that lobbyists make. And they make a lot of money to go down to Washington to say either keep things the way they are so we can continue to operate the way we operate, or change the rules so that we can continue to operate the way we operate.
Mm-hmm.
And they paid a lot of money to lobbyists so that they could continue to be exactly how they were and have fuel cars that weren't as fuel efficient as they could have been and things like that. And that's what, people are really begging for now. Um, and really what they wanted to do is status quo. And so I don't know if a company can want to be status quo, hold on to being status quo so long, and then now want to be able to really scrutinize itself and become basically a different company, is what the oversight committees for the um, federal government are asking, is that they, really change who they are.
Henry, I have a question for you. As an engineer, what went wrong with the automobile industry, especially as it relates to fuel efficiency? They knew that there's only so much natural resource in terms of oil. You know, they knew this 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Uh, how did they drop the ball?
Well, they dropped it by choice, Ron. Back in 2001, as you know, I had written a letter to the editor indicating that Congress needed to pass corporate average fuel economy standards, which would move the standards from 27.5 miles to gallon to 33.5 miles a gallon. The argument was from General Motors and not only General, from the automobile industry and the unions, that if we were to retool at this time, it would cost the corporation billions of dollars, both in design and in lost wages, and so on and so forth. So they were able to get Congress to waive the passing of the corporate average fuel economy standards.
More lobbyists, I suppose.
Well, not just lobbyists, but the press also took the position that they needed to waive these. So what we have left now are rudiments of an industry that has been left behind. It
Mm-hmm.
left itself behind.
Right, it did.
But I said in that same letter to the editor, if if gasoline rose to $2 a gallon, it would virtually kill the American automobile industry.
Mm.
Should I say more?
Mhm. Well,
You can go back and read
Mhm.
that's
that
what
letter to the
happened.
editor.
Exactly what
Yeah.
happened when it went to $4. People stopped buying big cars. The
Mm-hmm.
thing I think about though, I'm just shocked and amazed. I started looking at the sale prices for cars lately, and I'm an average car buyer. But when I see $55,000 for a Cadillac truck, when you talked about why were they making profits and they were losing market share, I thought you were going to say because they started charging more for the cars. But when I think about somebody spending $56,000 on a Cadillac truck compared to back in 1988, remember when they were encouraging us to spend $13,000 on a Cadillac Cimarron? That looked
Mm-hmm.
like a Cavalier or something. Do you remember those
Yeah,
Cimarrons?
I do.
So, the thought is that this is, to me, is again them. It's like warmed over garbage. It's the same old stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and they are marketing what they have and telling us that this is what you really want, this is what you should have, and this is what's going to make you look cool and successful. And we're going, okay, we don't see anything else. This must be it. This must. So we buy that stuff when in fact people are looking for other alternatives. The other thing I heard, and I wonder if you know anything about this, Henry, is the the hybrid car, the Toyota hybrid,
General Motors vote.
what's the name of the Toyota hybrid? I'm trying to think of it. Well, anyway, they're about to close it. The Prius, Prius,
Prism?
no,
Oh,
No, I know what you
Prius.
mean. Yep.
They're
Oh,
about to
okay.
close that down because they're not making any money
Yeah.
with that. And the understanding is these hybrid cars are so much more expensive, supposedly because you're going to save money in the back end with the fuel mileage. So we really do have to figure that out. But I have to admit, I am looking forward to the vault and when that comes out and what that's going to look like and how that's going to perform.
But you know what I can't understand is that how in the world, in good conscience, do these automobile industries think that the average American can afford this with with the outsourcing and the wage reductions and the massive layoffs.
Because
Uh,
they have encouraged people, and I've heard people say that how like Henry says, if I'm supposed to support my country, how is it that I can go out and buy a used car? I need to buy a new car in order for people to have jobs. Whereas if you really think about people who are now getting financially educated and economically literate, the understanding is why would you spend 25% of the cost of your home? Why don't you just put that money into your home to get closer to owning your own home? And some people will go, well, you're always going to have a car payment. That's not true. And I think that's what it is they're convincing us, or they have convinced us, that if I don't care if the car is $32,000, I need a car, and that's how much cars cost, and that's what I'm going to pay for, as opposed to saying, let me wait 3 years and get that car for 15,000 or something like that. So you can have reliable transportation. But people believe that they need to be buying new cars. They believe they should and deserve expensive cars.
And
Well, let me
also,
just
too,
say,
what is not shared, I don't think, with the American public is that, Chrysler's, Ford's, and General Motors, they're making profits overseas.
Right.
Okay, now what they don't tell them in their perspectives and stuff, the American people, how much profits that they've made in China and Taiwan, okay, and Mexico,
But it's not enough to
okay.
no,
sustain the U.S. portion of the business.
it's
But
not.
but but whose fault is that?
I
See,
think, would you say that General Motor cars are more a status symbol in other countries? And it's not a status symbol here. It's just your grandma's car. It's your great daddy's car. It's,
Well, I don't know what status what you look for. I belong to the automobile industry, so we produce things that people wanted.
mm,
If people want it, we live in a big, huge country, and it takes us a long time to go from east to west and north to south. So we need bigger capacity cars to do all of that.
how
The
do
other
you need a
people,
big car to go the same
it
distance that
takes
a
a long.
small car would go?
You're going to be sitting in the car for 15, 16 hours, or
Oh, so
17,
it
or
needs to
18
be a
hours.
bed and a
Well,
couch at the same
you,
time.
you got to have a much. You got to be able to move your legs around.
Mhm. Yeah.
Americans are bigger people. They
Mhm.
need bigger cars. That's my 2 cents worth for there. But I want to say something about your anticipation for small hybrid cars and electric car. Well, I believe that General Motors and Ford and Chrysler can do this, but it's not a solution
Mm.
to the problems that we face. Because if you're going to use an electric car, you're going to get your energy from coal conversion. You're going to, and they're in making a coal conversion from that type of energy, chemical energy to electrical energy, there is a 25% loss just in the conversion.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you're going to be using fossil fuels anyway, because somebody has to generate the electricity. Unless, of course, you go to atomic energy, and we're not there yet. So I don't see this electric car that you have so much hope in, like the Volt. And I know that it would be good for runabouts in the cities, but you wouldn't want to trust it in going from here to Detroit because you run out of power.
so
You know.
are you saying that
Well,
these
it's supposed to go 35 miles to a gallon.
No, but
Not 35, but 35 or
to
45 miles to a
charge,
gallon. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
charge, right?
Uh huh.
You better make
That'll get
sure.
me to Detroit.
Okay,
so are you?
but look at it.
Okay.
We're talking. We're not talking apples and apples. We're
Mhm.
talking apples and
Mm.
oranges. And there's a real huge energy conversion and a loss there that will not sustain our economy.
And we're
Mhm.
talking about the automobile industry duping the American public again.
Well, I'm not so sure. It's duping. Americans want so many things. They want environmental restraint. They want to reduce the carbon emission. They want to reduce nitrogen oxide and sulfur dioxide and all of those things that cause us problems with the environment. They want to have all of it at once. And in doing that, you're going to have to sacrifice something.
Mhm.
What would you suggest if you could to make this workable? Okay, in terms of fuel efficiency. If you were, if you were in charge and you have complete control.
Oh, well, first of all, I would encourage people to use the mass transit system and carry more people at a time from point A to point B. Then I would encourage people to drive only when they have to reduce our dependency on foreign oil. Because even if we grow uh, billions of acres of corn and converted that to gasoline, gasohol, if you will, or ethanol, which
Mm-hmm.
propels the car, you would have an energy conversion. Now, fossil fuel has 18,000 BTUs per pound of gasoline.
Mhm.
Diesel fuel has 22,000 pounds. But yet, I mean 22,000 um, BTUs per pound. And now when you take alcohol, like ethanol, it has 13,000 BTUs per pound.
Mhm.
So you see the conversion. You're going to have to build a tank on your car to drive with alcohol that's 25% bigger
Mm-hmm.
just to get the same miles. You've got a 500-mile range, you're going to have a bigger tank because the energy in alcohol is not there. That's in hydrocarbons.
Okay.
Quickly, there's one thing that I would like to say about the question that you asked before, addressing who is going to buy these cars. You know, being that they're outsourcing jobs overseas into other countries. I wanted to say that there should be, I believe there should be stipulations on General Motors getting this money. Stipulations saying that, well, if we loan you this money, you're going to put the money back into the American economy, help revitalize the American economy, because that is a concern of a lot of people. You know, a lot of plants closing down as a result, a lot of people losing jobs, and then a lot of the jobs are outsourced to other countries because you claim that our labor is too expensive, so we need to do it for cheaper labor. Um, the price of the cars are not reflecting the cheaper labor, so General Motors definitely should be there should be stipulations on getting that money as far as keeping the money in America and using it to create more jobs for
Mm-hmm.
the American people to keep the economy alive to help it continue to thrive or
Absolutely.
definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But you know what's wrong with that? a great thought. And many people think about that all the time. Many people in the union, many people who are on salary think about only looking at the American scene. But we can't do that.
It's
We have,
American money.
we have to, but it's the market. You have to support the market that supports your product. the American the American marketplace does not support necessarily the American product. All
We'll
you
let
have to
him
do
go
is
get his money from the foreigners then.
well, all you have to do is go into Walmart and find how many pieces, consumer goods you find built in this country.
Right.
Uh,
Zero.
well, well, close to zero. But now, how many Americans actually buy American automobiles? Is it 1 out of 10? Is it 2 out of 10? But it's no more than that.
But has it always
So
been
now,
that
why?
way?
No, it wasn't always that. Americans back in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, they built 85% of the consumer goods of the
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
But we've lost that. We lost it through a lot of means. It's a complex formula that explains how we lost manufacturing in
And
this country.
manufacturing is supposed to be one of the biggest, best businesses with, profit margin.
Yes.
That's why a lot of people in manufacturing do so well. But because of, I think, sending, reduction in scale and sending things overseas, we've lost the benefit of that. Because if you have a manufacturing plant, you're hiring much more than people who are on the line. You have your administrators as well as your CEOs and things like that. So that's how people can how we can build a middle class in America. But when we lost that, that's what we lost as well.
At this time, though, we must introduce our wonderful co-host, Miss excuse me, Tracy Atkinson Blackwell.
Right.
All right, owner of Page's Bookstore in Flint. Tell our viewing audience about your bookstore.
Well, thank you, Ron. Page's Bookstore is located in beautiful, wonderful downtown Flint. The whole reason for opening it was so that we could have our own bookstore right here in the city of Flint, in the heart of town. And what we would like to accomplish there is just to create a community space, help build literacy, help people have a love for downtown and being a part of its revitalization. We have books there. We kind of specialize in religious books, African American titles, fiction. Our book clubs do very well. One of the things I've always wanted to do, and I'm glad I'll be able to do it through your venue, in my opinion show, is to have a discussion about book like books of the month or must read books. Like for example, for me, I think a must read book is Audacity of Hope. That one is flying off the bookshelves. I'm glad to see a lot of people gave that as gifts this past season. And then also for us to start thinking about how it is that we can be a part of the solution with our economy is the Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And it really gets us to believe in that if I think better, I'll see better, and I'll do better.
That's wonderful. I want
Thank
to
you,
thank
Ron.
our wonderful panel, Miss Osha Weaver, Miss Tracy Blackwell, Mr. Henry Hatter. This is Ronald Berry Robinson and friends saying for the In My Opinion show.